Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm your host, Patsun, and today we're gonna be taking a look at r/relationships, where OP's cheating ex-fiancé is now so desperate to get married. Let's begin. Our first story was posted by a throwaway Reddit account.
I just made this throwaway account, so she probably won't know. Backstory. My ex-fiancé cheated on me when she went to the USA for her MD 5 years ago. We live in India. Then she stated the reason that I wasn't earning enough, and the person she found is much more compatible with her. We were engaged at the moment. We both met through our common family friend as to get married. Arranged marriages in India is a lot more common than a lot of other countries. So we nearly dated and knew each other for a year before she went to the USA for her MD, as I mentioned earlier. I am a government employee, IPS, in my state, so I do earn a good amount of money according to Indian standards. So when she broke up the engagement and we knew the reason why, her family was in a pretty bad position as cheating is treated really harsh here, and a lot of rumors about me and my family also started, but we made it through. So for the current situation, my ex-fiancée came back from the US after completing her MD in 2021. I don't know exactly when. After that, again, she went radio silent, and in January of 2023, she out of nowhere started to message me asking how I was and other small details. I didn't want any drama, so I just talked with her in a civil manner and thought nothing of it. Then she started to call too, which was weird. She told me that she was sorry that she cheated, and I genuinely thought she wanted forgiveness. So be it. I also didn't want to hold a grudge. Then she came to my bungalow. I still don't know how she got the address. We government officials are allotted a bungalow house by the government. She came and started the talk about how her time in the USA was the greatest and all. Then suddenly, she proposed of us getting married again. I refused, as she had cheated already, and since then, she has been pushing for it. Her family, as well as the common family friend, which introduced her and me, are forcing us now, and how that was just a mistake. Same thing is happening with my extended family. My parents and sister understand that cheating is a big problem and aren't forcing me. So I am pretty sure I am not going back. But why did she came back? She will make like 4 times my money in maybe 4 or so years. So yeah, that's my story. TLDR, ex-fiancé cheated 5 years ago on her MD when in the USA, now wants us to get married as that was a mistake. Now for OP's first update. Hello everyone, it has been quite a week for me. Now I'll start from where I left off. I followed a few advices from here and talked about this with her parents as well as her, and they seemed to unlock it, or I thought everything was fine for a month or so. Then one day, I was invited to a party from her side. It was an invitation for her engagement, and my parents, as well as few of my relatives, persuaded me to just go in, as it was outside my state. So I took an official leave, was not easy to get, as IPS handles a lot of stuff, and went with my family and relatives. Still, I was happy that she moved on, but it was pretty quickly, I thought, and when we arrived there, I made small talk with her, and all I asked who was the lucky guy. She just said I wasn't allowed to know, and all I thought it was just a tease. 2 days passed, and the day of her engagement came around. When I arrived at the venue, lo and behold, I was the lucky one. It was quite the shock for me, and the worst thing of all, my parents were involved. This time I thought they supported me, but sadly, I was incorrect. It seems I was in shock, confused on what could I do, and her parents literally, not gonna lie, literally just wanted to bribe me into marrying her. They said, we bought an apartment for both of you, and if you want, we'll put this in your name, and in the wedding, we will be giving an SUV in cash. As in, Indian wedding dowry is just too fucking common, and I am against it. Okay, let's continue now. I was just like, wow, it's like a fucking movie. And everyone, literally everyone was like, she is beautiful and she is a doctor, what else you want in her? And then the blame shifted towards me as to why won't I just marry her? She did a mistake and want to amend herself, and I won't accept her because of my male ego as she earns more than me, and shit stooped so low that even my parents were on her side now. My sister wasn't invited as she was really with me and against her, and a shit ton of other things happened. I am writing this on my day off when I can write. Haven't talked to literally anyone since except my sister. Feeling really fucked up now. What should I do? Please give advice, please. TLDR. Got invited by my ex-fiancé, who cheated. On her engagement party, I got to know I was the one getting engaged to her. And now, for OP's update 1 year later. Hello Reddit, it's been a while since I last posted here. I have been nearly at the edge of a psychotic breakdown in the last 3 months. I have been visiting a psychiatrist and not in a really good environment. So for the real update, after the stunt pulled previously, I didn't talk to my parents for nearly a whole month. As I missed them, I went to visit them, and after a bit of small talk, I told them I was disappointed that even now they were supporting her. They just shrugged and said I was being a big baby as I was older now and they wanted grandchildren soon. I was pretty sad after listening that they just told marriages are about sacrifices and blah blah blah. I was just listening to them and I got ahead of myself and asked if mom cheated on dad. Would he take her back? I would say I got ahead of myself and received a tight slap on my face. I just stood up and left, and after I returned to my bungalow house, I started receiving calls from them, but I just ignored it for the day. After nearly 2 weeks, my father came to talk, and we talked for a long time. He said he understood, but said she didn't cheated on me technically, as we weren't married, and we shouldn't judge her on her past actions, and people change.
That's stupid! You're stupid! Stop being stupid!
It just went back and forth for a long time, and nothing productive happened. He just left after that. During this time, I was in contact with my sister, and nothing much happened until 4 months ago. I received a kind of ultimatum that either I get married to her or find someone else quickly, but they would still prefer her, and the only person who was with me, my sister, was now kinda on her side too. Why, you ask? Because she was gifted a whole-ass car by her parents, and she now was a great person. Now literally everyone has now told me either I marry or go my way and not to talk to them ever again. I don't want to be alone. Please help. TLDR, everyone is now siding with my ex and will cut me off if I don't marry the cheating hoe.
You know, OP, I sympathize with you. I really do. I too came from a very strict Asian household that always preaches family is family no matter what happens. And let me tell you, from experience, this isn't always the case. Sometimes cutting them off is what's truly best for you. It might get lonely, sure, and you'll definitely get weird looks from your neighbors, but the peace of mind is totally worth it. I don't want to sound like an asshole here, but I will risk it and say that your parents and sister are terrible people. Real family will not force you into a life of misery just for money and a goddamn car. They demand grandchildren, but they can't even treat their own son right. When people tell you who they truly are, believe them, OP. It really sounds like she's desperate, that she knows that you are quite literally her last chance to get married. And if you look at it objectively, you can see why. She is over 30, she has a proven track record of cheating, and as a result, she has broken an engagement because she couldn't keep her legs closed. Can you imagine anyone in her social circle that would be willing to be married to her? Our second story was posted by Reddit user Dukes of Hazard Lights.
This shit is just too good to keep in. I can't tell anyone in my family, so naturally, I'm telling internet strangers. Bear with me on the long backstory, it is totally worth it. This hot tea special is centered on my dad, Steve, 69. For context, my family lives in the Midwestern US. My dad was born on the West Coast and graduated high school in 1974. When my sister, 39, and 37, were growing up, Dad had a tattoo of a woman's name on his arm. We used to ask him who Susan was because that's not our mom's name. The only thing he would ever say was that she was an old high school girlfriend, and if we tried to inquire further, he'd get kinda weird and shut down. Mom would then swoop in to change the subject. Once Sis and I were in our late teens, our mom gave us the real story on Susan. Apparently, Susan and Dad were high school sweethearts. About a year or two after they'd graduated high school, Dad came home and found Susan in bed with some firefighter. Naturally, it totally wrecked him, and I guess he had trouble relaying the full story to Mom, even after they were married. My sister and I made sure to never mention Susan to my dad again, but we could tell that Mom was bothered by the tattoo. Dad got it covered up eventually. Fast forward to 2023. My parents' marriage had lasted almost 40 years, but after years of counseling and trying to make things work, they ended up divorcing. Sis and I were honestly relieved because it was exhausting trying to ignore the elephant in the room for so long. Now that they aren't together, our parents are living their best lives and figuring out who they are outside of each other. Now to June 2024. Dad decides to go to his 50th high school reunion. You can see where this is going, right? He sends Sis and me a bunch of pictures of him with his old buddies, and he genuinely seems to be enjoying himself. Well, shocker, Susan shows up to the reunion also. He sees her and keeps his distance, but she seems to be lingering nearby to talk to him. Later in the evening, after everyone has had a few drinks, she sits down next to him. He is more loosened up at this point and is expecting her to say her piece, explain, apologize, etc. As they start talking, though, it becomes clear to my dad that Susan is completely oblivious to the pain she caused. Eventually, he turns to her and says, "Are you seriously going to talk to me and act like everything ended on a friendly note for us? Like you didn't do anything wrong?" Totally shocked, she looks at him and says, "What are you talking about? You cheated on me. I came home and you were screwing that firefighter guy." When she could finally put words together, she replies, "What are you talking about, Steve?" And my dad just stares at her, incredulous. She had totally blocked out what had happened. He shakes his head and is about to get up when Susan says, "Stephen, that never happened. You broke up with me. You wanted to leave the coast for a while and said that I deserved to be with someone who would cherish me and treat me like I deserved. You didn't think you were good enough for me. You broke my heart." Dad is getting more and more heated the longer Susan talks because the audacity. He goes to interrupt her and she doubles down, finally saying, "You wrote me a letter before you left. You wrote me a letter saying how sorry you were that you couldn't be the man I deserved." Dad is sitting there, utterly flabbergasted by this woman's sheer gall. Then Susan reaches into her purse and fucking pulls out the letter. And it is legit, his handwriting. Not only had she kept his letter for 50 years, Homegirl brought it with her to the reunion in hopes that she might see him there. She then proceeds to tell my dad that she has only ever loved two men in her life, her late husband, who was a retired firefighter, and my dad. That's it. What I can't wrap my head around is how my dad got it so wrong for so many years. Also, how did he forget that he wrote Susan a letter? My sister is the one he told about the whole reunion conversation and drama. She is closer to Dad, and she swore me to secrecy. We think that maybe he was embarrassed about having someone's name tattooed on him, so he made up a sob story to make my mom feel less insecure about the tattoo's existence. Maybe he told the lie enough that he started believing it himself and convinced himself that it was what really happened. And he had known Susan went on to marry a firefighter and somehow incorporated that into his narrative. It's all just so fucking wild. So after that illuminating revelation at the reunion, Dad and Susan made their peace with each other. They have been talking a lot since then and are now kinda dating. He has gone to visit her twice since the reunion. If the selective memory thing wasn't so messed up, it would almost be romantic. I don't dare say anything to our mom about this. Even though they're divorced, I still think it would crush her to know the truth. I worry that she would think Dad always harbored feelings for Susan and that their marriage was not his first choice because he still loved Susan. Anyways, thanks for reading. I have been wanting to share this for months, and even though I think it would make a great TikTok video, I am too paranoid to make one in case my friends or other family members would come across it on my page, even though none of them are on TikTok.
Really, OP? TikTok? You chose that degenerate website where underage kids are twerking over the original degenerate website that is YouTube? At least here we have standards. I kid. They're both terrible. Anyways, if I'm not mistaken, this is called confabulation, where a person creates false memories to cope. So there you go. The more you know. I bet he regrets the letter, and when he found out that she was dating a firefighter, he created this "she wronged me" scenario in his head to help him manage his guilt. And over 50 years, he actually began to believe the false version of events. The human brain is just weird that way. Viewer support is the best way for me to remain independent and continue bringing you these daily videos, which will always be here on my channels for you to watch absolutely free. So please consider subscribing to me on Rumble and on YouTube. Both will be linked in the description box down below. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you even somewhat enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you really like it, consider subscribing to PattSun to never miss a future upload. Stay strong.